And we are live. So I'm here with Nick Francis, CEO, founder, SkySprout Summit?
Yes.
SkySprout Marketing Agency, right?
Yep.
Whole thing, whole shebang. You're a man of many talents. I'm going to let you kind of give the little spiel on who you are, but I wanted to, before kind of setting that up, just from what I know about him on the internet and what I've seen him be able to do, it's incredibly impressive to go from haunted houses to marketing agency, leader to running an event. So kind of give me the short story of who you are, how you got here.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, so I started, my first business was our haunted house. So we started that in my parents' backyard when I was like 15 or 16 with my business partner, Matt Simon. And we grew that business to a really big haunted house company over about 5 years. And where the reason for that growth was essentially we had a great event. We understood like how to create a live experience, but on the marketing end, we were going digital route where all of our competitors and everybody traditionally in that industry was staying very traditional. And so on top of that, we had to learn all of those things because we couldn't afford to hire anybody to do it. Like we knew that SEO was important, for example, but especially back then, but we couldn't afford the company to do it. We knew that website design was important. We couldn't afford to hire the company to do it. So we just started learning each of these little skills one by one. Found a family friend that was an expert in all of this stuff, and he helped guide me through a lot of it. Max and I are both pretty nerdy, so we figured out a lot of it along the way. And once the haunted house kind of peaked in 2015, I knew, like, Max knew and I knew, like, he was going to go into the finance area and I was going to go into marketing. Finance was heavy, what he kind of specialized in with our haunt, and I did like a lot of the marketing. While we overlapped a lot, we kind of knew our own strengths. And so we lost a piece of real estate that our haunted house was in 2015, and that was when we kind of were like, cool, like, we're going to let's keep going, like, let's keep momentum on something. And so I went into starting a marketing company. I'd been doing it on the side for people along the way as they'd seen our haunted house grow. People had wanted to, hire me freelance. So a couple months out of the year when things were slower, I helped some other friends and people's businesses out a little bit. But then once the haunted house was done, I had the time to create one on my own. I partnered with some good friends of mine, and we started an agency in 2015 to 2017. And then they kind of acquired everybody in the company. I sold my half and started something where I was kind of 100% the owner here in the very beginning of 2018. So I've been in the online marketing world for as long as I've been doing business, but this specific entity of SkySprout has been around in this capacity for about 1.5 years. And at the beginning of the year is when we kind of announced and launched the SkySprout Summit, which is our 2-day digital marketing conference. Really, it all comes together, and we knew we were super good at marketing events. That was how I started, and most of our clients were heavy event-based clients. And there was just a certain level of excitement around preparing and getting ready to launch a marketing campaign for a live event. And then when you run your own live event, there's just this huge level of excitement, like, to that deadline and getting all the people together. It's just always something that's been super exciting for me. And then we took that and we're like, well, like, maybe music festival, maybe this. There's a lot of different ways to go. And staying in our own lane right now, at least, of let's keep it like marketing conference related, like keep marketing related, kind of just the pieces kind of came together and realized that this was probably a good place to start to get back into running, my own events. So here we are, about a month out from it. So
yeah, so it's still, I'm super, I'm pumped for it because it's something that's kind of different. It's but it's pulling in skill sets that I think are just not commonly respected, right? So like building those kind of haunted house things. But when you're doing, I guess there are a couple things I want to unpack. When you were doing freelance work, what kind of digital marketing? Because digital marketing can be kind of vague. Like, is that just programming SEO? Is that doing ads for social media? What was that freelance work back then?
So it was actually during an interesting time where things were moving super fast. It still definitely is, but it was right at kind of the tail end, like sweet spot though of SEO. So when I started, the very first couple of years I did it, it was 100% focused on search engine optimization. Probably for the first 3-4 years, and then got really, really good at that. And then as soon as I did, like, it's pretty much not as applicable right now.
Sure.
It's still important, but
what caused that change for SEO?
I think people's searching behavior. So, and then it got like exponentially more difficult to hack or to do. So it made it, while like I can still do it for our own companies, when companies hire us and understand what it takes now, they're like, well, we hired, like we had a client, for example, our price to do a similar service for them over the last couple of years went up 4x for SEO. And they're like, why? I'm like, it's just 4 times the work now. So like, I'm like, I can do what we did before, but it'll take 4 times as long. Like it's so much more work. And so we do it for ourselves and we do it for some select clients that request it. But you know, Google's gotten smarter and it's just become more and more challenging.
Sure. And then did that, I guess, what was the next step from that? Where do you go? Is it Google AdWords? What is that?
We did that I think we kind of always did Google AdWords. That was always a pretty easy thing to see an ROI from and to map it. But it was then organic social media. So when Facebook's organic reach was good, we were literally just getting paid as an agency or as a freelance to post on people's social every day and keep that full and keep kind of people's businesses active on social. And then as that dropped, as organic reach plummeted, we went into Facebook ads. And then that's pretty much where things have stayed. Content production, helping people produce the actual video content or consult on it, and then getting really nerdy with the actual ad buying of Facebook, Google, Instagram, Snapchat. That's pretty much where we stay. And if people want us to go outside of that, we totally do. But I would say, just from the sake of what people are requesting and what we do on a daily basis, that's where it ends up falling right now is heavy ad buying and content production.
So where do you see it going?
It's going to be really interesting. So like, I was just on another podcast and it was kind of like the same question. I think it's, as an agency, it's going to be really interesting and we have to stay on top of this. Like, I think any agency that feels comfortable right now should be like really nervous, because I think we're as Facebook, literally you can open up Facebook and Google's doing it now too. And it's literally just called an ad objective. That's the first thing you select when you start an ad. And it says, some simple examples are website traffic, conversions, or like engagement, right? And so if you start to logic through where this is going, you're realizing I can pull up a Facebook ad as just a business owner. I can say, well, what I would like is sales, okay? Then just click conversions. And there's 1 or 2 other steps like setting up the pixel, but the reality is that's kind of like where Facebook is starting to take it. It's not that simple to get, but they're getting it to be that simple. So they want you to be able to, as a business owner, make make it as easy as possible to buy an ad. Well, that's very easy to do, but then to make it that easy and effective is a whole nother challenge that they need to build AI data on top of to be able to get there. So where I see a lot of this going is, you are a dentist and Facebook has however many millions of dentists already advertising for the past 10 years on their platform. They know they've literally got image recognition, video recognition, AI on top of all of that, and they know what should be in that image already to get the best result. And no agency is going to be able to compete with that. So like, I don't care how big you are, you're never going to have every small business, right? So like, even the biggest of the biggest might have a slight advantage, but they're not going to have the same advantage that Facebook or Google will have directly. So logicking through that, I could see a small business literally going onto Facebook and just saying, boost my business. And in the same way there's a boost button, you could just say, send me leads.
Yeah.
And it should be that simple, and I think we're so close, because if they know exactly, okay, here's 1 million dentists, they've all tried all of these images, and across all of them, this image performed the best, like, then why not shoot your own picture of that and then use it for every dentist and give them the leads? Like, they have all the data, right. And by us buying more and more and more ads and doing what they want and trying the new features and all this stuff. We're just building all of their AI data.
You're building your analytics.
Yeah,
so.
They know exactly what's going to work and what's not going to work. And if they don't know it for every single industry now, it's just a matter of time. They're just building the data up. And so I see it definitely going to super hands-off for an agency to where they're going to have to find their own competitive advantage. And I think that moves out of the small business. I think the most vulnerable market for a marketing agency is a small business marketing.
Sure.
I think it's the easiest thing for the actual platforms themselves to just flip a switch and be like, cool, now you just click this button and we'll send you as many leads as you want and turn it off when you're done. Like it will get that simple at some point in time. I think a lot sooner than people think. So I think the area that we're focusing on is the content capturing and the content production, where like at a brand level, Facebook and those platforms probably at least for a decade or so won't be able to say, well, if you're Coca-Cola, this is what your ad should look like, right? Like if you're Pepsi, this is what it should look like. They're not going to know at the big brand levels. So being able to take a business that's a step above a small business, but not in the giant, marketing, kind of global marketing agencies that exist out there that work with the big dozen or so brands, or the Fortune 100s. There's a sweet spot in the middle of people trying to build brand, and I think that's where we can kind of find our space is right in the middle there, because I think right now for a while there's some room on the small business end to help, but I just don't think it's got the longevity that people think it does.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So we actually one of my friends, Ted Troxel, who was on this podcast months ago, runs a company startup called Linear Labs that does A/B testing for ads.
Cool.
So he has his own little cooked up software that kind of runs that. He's echoed similar sentiments where it's like, hey, the creative portion you can't substitute human creativity, but like It's becoming a lot easier to know what needs to be in that box for people to click on things, right?
Yeah.
I think that's something that clickbait's already been leveraging, because I think that clickbait kind of already has those human behaviors. I think if you could get that a little more professionalized, I think that would be a good way to look at ads.
Yeah.
But the way you've kind of spun it is you're looking more at content creation for your clients. That's kind of your next step.
Yeah, we've always been doing it to some degree on like the graphic end. Like we've been doing a basic amount of it, but we're now over the next 12 months and like this year we already have we're hiring full-time team members to help with content production. And it's not necessarily about, we're going to have the highest quality content we can produce, but I think it's much more about the psychology and the thought that goes into it, not about the agency that has the best possible camera equipment or studio or whatever. It's going to be about, there seems to be marketing agencies that buy the ads on the smaller end, right? And they buy the ads, or they consult, or they manage your social media, and then there's the production companies that shoot and edit all of the video and photos, and you need to put them together. Like my videographer and photographer is going to take all of the Facebook blueprint courses. He's going to work with our ad buyer so that he knows, okay, this is where my content's going, so I'm going to need to make sure that that it's framed up in this way, and if we did this, people can swipe up, whatever it is. He needs to understand the nuances of the platform to at least be able to produce the best possible content that actually sells something, and not get caught up in what is the perfectly edited video that we learned in film school that tells us is cropped the right way. All the rules go out the window when you learn all this stuff in school, and now you walk in here and you're like, okay, the video is going to be vertical. It's like, we didn't talk one day about vertical. I guarantee you, get a degree in any of that, you're not talking about vertical video for a second, let alone how to make something that actually sells product.
Well, there's something to be said sometimes for that. If you want an ad to just kind of catch somebody's attention, maybe you want it to look homemade, right?
100%.
That will catch people's attention, especially when they're just mindlessly scrolling, right?
Yep.
That's the content thing is actually a conversation Larry and I had on the podcast where it's like, listen, let's not get the best cameras in the world. Let's just make content. We'll pick things up as we go along, right? And I think that what we've learned is, especially with this podcast, half the people just listen to it anyway, so the video portion is kind of secondary. But then you know, they just want to know that they just want to see it. You know, you get skills, you get added value from it, but a lot of people get caught up in they have to have the perfect thing and then they put it out. But I think that quantity does matter.
Oh, 100%.
So when you look at digital marketers, you kind of maybe look at some people that are competing with you or just doing the same thing somewhere else. Who do you think is doing it right? Is there anyone that comes to mind where you're like, okay, that is kind of a blueprint, or do you think that you're just are you kind of going off your own path, or what do you see out there that you're like, yes, that's good?
Well, I think kind of what I see is the bigger like the big companies are doing it the right way. Like the VaynerMedias, the people of that size, they are doing it right because the clients are investing the proper amount of money to put together the right package. There's no point in criticizing like a local marketing agency when they're given $500, $600 a month from the client and be like, here, give me some phone calls. It's like, there's nothing they can do. And it's a lot of times like, I don't know, I think that it's very, very hard to work with a small local business because I think they're better off a lot of times learning this stuff and doing it themselves and spending 1 hour a day understanding it and learning it, because it used to be like a thing that's, you know, nice to understand, nice to know, like, but I'll just have like my nephew do it, or I'll just have like somebody in my house do it, like whatever, right? Like your small business, like I understand 100%, like you have no time, especially like I started a small business when I wasn't like older, had like a family and kids, like I couldn't even imagine. But it's something where you're going to just have to carve out something else is going to be less important, and you need to carve it away and do it yourself, other than hire an agency. Because if you think about it, and it's a terrible sales pitch for us, but it's the truth. It's like you should be spending $1,000 on ads before you even think about hiring a company to make content. Like then hire a company to make content. Like come in and tell us we've been spending $1,000, $2,000 a month on Facebook. Can you help us? But yes, we can make it 50% more effective for you, and like we have a place to work from. But people going and being like, I'm like struggling. Like I just need somebody to do this. We don't turn people away in that instance. But in the last year, every person that's come to us and said, I don't want to understand this, I just want you guys to do it, every single client has left within 3 months.
Okay.
And as I look back on the past, when I did it freelance, it was the exact same thing. The clients that come in and say, I want to understand what's going on, I've tried this for a couple of years, I understand how difficult it is, and so then they feel the pain point of like, if anything, I just don't want to spend the time doing it. Those sorts of people are great because they value how fast it's changing and evolving, so they either value our time, and so they have a little bit more of a respect for it, or they come to meetings and they're excited about the possibilities. And so, you know, part of our conference for like day one, I really want to get people excited about what's possible, and then in day two go into the weeds and the heavy teaching. But really day one is like, there's so many excuses for like, oh, I'm a nonprofit, I'm a small business. Like the first thing at our conference is a small business panel of like other small businesses that have found success doing online marketing, and that for the most part haven't really hired any sort of outside agency to help them. And so it's going to be a great way to kick it off and kind of kill the excuses of they've all got families, they've all got the same thing.
Right.
It's super difficult, but I mean I think that's kind of the biggest thing is having people. I think that your original question was like who's doing it right. I think for a small business marketing agency, I don't think they're necessarily doing anything wrong. The majority, I just don't think they're being put in a position to win and provide the results that they need. I think they're afraid to ask for the budget that they need to make a true impact, and they'd rather say, okay, well, if all you got is 500, I can help you for 500. When the reality is that client, you're not doing them a service. Like I would rather turn somebody away even if they're a really good friend and say, listen, you need to be spending a couple $1,000 a month, and they say I don't have that. I can't just. It's not that we're just being jerks. It's that I would rather you spend that money on something else and then come back when you're bigger and are in a position or set a couple months aside and of revenue and or of profit and then pump it into marketing. I'd rather people do that than just dabble and then say, well, nothing worked. And so the big agencies do it right. And so I think right now what I'm seeing for us is bridging that gap from the skill set of and the holistic approach of the big agencies and putting that into mid-size businesses, and then teaching the smaller businesses and freelance people, startups. There's a huge market right now. There's consultants, coaches, people that are just like one person shops and they plan to be, and they need to be learning it. They're not going to be able to afford to hire an agency or somebody. So that's the training, consulting, coaching, and the live events that we do is going to be kind of like what sets us apart in some respect of can't afford to hire us as an agency, well then you should be learning it. And then if you can, then we're here to help if you need it. So I think that is the right approach, is to teach the people that need to be taught and let them spend their money on ad buying, and then to actually execute when it's the proper time and the proper size of the business to do the execution of it.
Sure. That's interesting because, before we started filming, I was talking a little about cybersecurity, and cybersecurity is very much a similar subject where it's like, if you're a smaller company, you never budgeted for cybersecurity effectively, right? You may have bought a firewall, but that's
right.
That's a step, right? It's not the whole thing, and so you dabbled.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough getting people over being willing to budget for something they never had to really budget for,
right?
Or they never took the time to budget for. I would argue that marketing's probably more crucial to a company than cybersecurity is. Again, depending on what company, but I mean.
Right.
I think every company absolutely needs marketing. Some companies can get away with no cybersecurity, as is, I guess, like what typical red team, blue team kind of stuff. Now going back to the conference, so you have 2 days. Walk me through what those days will be like.
Sure.
Yeah.
So day one, so we just added this, but we're doing a pre-registration on the 15th, so the night before the conference starts. And then we're going to do a little cocktail mixer event that night, which will be nice for people that get into town early or want to get that knocked out so they don't have to get there at
Lots
7.
of empathy wine?
Lots of wine. So we got a lot of empathy wine, and so that'll be, I think everybody's getting a bottle at this point, don't quote me, but that's the goal. Is just please. So that's going to be the first night, and then we're going to probably have a call in the middle of the night for everybody that night, or they can kind of go down and mingle at the bar downstairs. The Hyatt's super nice. I like it because people can stay there. Mm-hmm. There's a really nice bar and plenty of room to just mingle and spread out. You don't feel like you're at a hotel bar where it's all crammed in. It's the convention center, and then you go upstairs and come to our big ballroom and whatever. So the next morning, 7 a.m. bright and early, we're starting with registration, and then doing we got some photo ops, and we got some vendors and some other people that are going to be there, and then the kickoff, I believe, is at 8 a.m. Yeah, 8 or 9 a.m. is when we're going to do kickoff keynote. I'm going to kind of set the context for the 2 days, introduce our company, our team, and some kind of initial thoughts on the kind of current state of marketing. And then we're going into seminars, small business marketing. There's, I don't remember the agenda offhand, but essentially we've got seminars all day.
Yeah, high level. I didn't need to play by play. Yeah.
So we've got, but again, that first day is going to be very. It's not just inspirational. I don't want it to come off as that, but it'll be a very kind of very top level view of what's possible with marketing, and going in the weeds on a couple topics. And then we're going to end with Gary Vee's fireside chat, and then go to the wine tasting meet and greet. Pretty much almost all the speakers are agreeing to be there as well and do photos, whatever people would like. And then after that will be the after party for everybody. So everybody's welcome to come back to the Hyatt. We have a really big after party planned. And then Damon John is going to actually be emceeing, and it's kind of weird, but it's gonna be fun. I think it's he's a personality in the branding and marketing and entrepreneurial space, and instead of bringing in some DJ people, we'll have a great DJ, but some DJ that people haven't heard of and invest all our time and money into the performance, we said, why don't we bring somebody in that's people are in that space are going to want to see and take pictures with and engage with. And so I think it was the right choice, and it'll be really cool to have somebody in that field also be the kind of the host of the after party. And that'll go really late, and there'll be tons of opportunities for people to mingle and whatnot. Next day is all deep in the weeds, start early, and we kick off with a Harmon Brothers keynote. So they've done all of the pretty much all of the viral commercials that people have seen online. They've done the purple mattress, Poopery, the squatty potty.
Yep.
All of those, they're going to dissect what goes into them, and it's going to be very hands-on. They're calling it a workshop where essentially walking people through how to set this up and get something of their own as well going. So I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to be like a really, really like applicable hands-on, go back home and just start working on it.
Yeah.
And then there's some other panels that day, and then we also have who else do we have that day? We have Amy Landino, who's a local to Columbus, really big vlogger on YouTube. She's created a tremendous name for herself, and she's going to be doing another really in the weeds, like technical, but also like here's what's possible. And I'll do a couple that day, and then we ended up, and everybody leaves around like 6 o'clock on day 2. So it's not something that I'd recommend. I go to conferences a lot, and people kind of mingle in and stroll in. With it being 2 days, I would definitely recommend that if you're going to spend the money, you're going to go. It's not something to just come and go as you want. I would just be there, because it's going to be over before you know it with it being 2 days. So
floating through it. I
would definitely be there, be present, and try and be there for as much as you possibly can. So. But so that's the goal.
It's great. I mean, you have some pretty high profile names up there, right? I mean, obviously Gary Vee is up there, but like in terms of scouting those guys, you just like call them and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. What would it take to get you here? And then they
pretty much
they give you their demands, and then you just kind of say you comply or you don't.
Yeah, pretty much it. Yeah, I mean, Gary was the only one that was a little bit of a unique deal, but really not that unique. It wasn't like we had some heavy negotiation and like ended up, getting some steal of a price. But it was just, how about we do a wine tasting? And he really, really wanted to promote his wine company.
Yeah.
So he had a YouTube video that came out a couple weeks prior.
Yep.
Where in it, he was
I saw you in his office.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Or is that a different one?
No, so that was after it was all said and done. But he had one, and he like just in the middle. Oh no, it was a barter. So he posted a barter that was like, we're trying to sell wine. If you want to buy a bunch of wine, then tell me what you want in exchange and how much wine you want to buy. And he's done that a lot with books, and I've seen him do like speaking engagements for like a massive book, like buying an absurd amount of books.
Okay.
And so I was like, maybe, but it's essentially going to be the same cost of our pocket, but maybe that it gets better to spend the money on a tangible item you're getting than cash. So we thought about it, and I'm like, that'd be kind of interesting. And then another video comes out, and he said, well, we're starting a speaking company, and he started a speaking agency for about a dozen really, really cool speakers, and they're representing them. And he mentioned in a blog one day, he's like, well, if you're willing to support our speakers, we're working on deals, and we're willing to do something. If you want to bring in a couple of our speakers, I'll speak at a reduced price. So I'm like, okay. So I started putting the pieces together, and I called the Zach who runs the Vayner Speakers and said, what can we do here? Like, what if we bought some wine? What if we hired a bunch of your speakers, which we did, and then we bought a bunch of wine? He says, let me call you right back. And call you right back, he's like, here's the deal. And I'm like, that we can probably make that work.
Okay.
And I slept on it, and I'm like, yep, we're gonna make that work. So, like I said, it's far from some screaming deal where like we got a.
He saw what you were doing, and he was like, all right, I'm just gonna do this for free.
Yeah, it was not that, but it was definitely just enough to make financial sense.
Okay.
And so we just went back to the drawing board and said, cool, we're gonna have to charge a little more for tickets. We're gonna have to make, like, we added a couple hundred more seats, like by putting them in the back. Like, we got creative, and here we are. And everybody else was either I want to speak because Gary's speaking, or they spoke at a reduced price, or if we actively approached them, then we just paid their fee. But the Harmon brothers were 1 o'clock in the morning. I just randomly was like, maybe, I don't know, it seems silly, but I'm like, hey, do you guys want to speak at my conference? They're like, yep, we'll call you tomorrow. I'm like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
And we still have to pay them all, but
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm like, these people aren't gonna even want to like talk to me, and
Sure.
they all want the same thing. They want exposure, and then they want money.
Yeah.
And like some people want exposure is more important, some people money's more important.
Yeah.
And so it's finding what's in with Gary. Money's not important, and exposure probably wasn't that important. So what he wanted was to support his speaking team, and to get all those people booked, he knew he had to be here, and so. He helped out his speaking company to sell a bunch of wine. He had to be here. So it's really just finding what's important to those speakers when they're bigger people and you know that money doesn't really matter to them, and giving them what's important to them. So even if we throw all the wine away, selling the wine was important to him, and so we went that route.
Yeah.
We're not, but
Right. Yeah. No. That's okay. So yeah, that's interesting too. So like I do a lot of cybersecurity conventions, and most of us that are speaking on cybersecurity are doing like trades. We barter for a lot of things.
Yep.
So like I've done a lot of speaking opportunities in exchange for people buying books, for example,
Sure.
things like that. So it's interesting that like I feel like with motivational speakers or with marketing, Gary Vee's I think his own animal. I think he's kind of the outlier, but the other ones it's harder to get like they're not making their money off their speaking fees. Maybe they are, but most of them I think are trying to find some way to get more exposure. So I guess I would have assumed that more people in marketing would be more concerned with exposure than money, which may have been true to what you've seen, just because marketing is exposure and they understand marketing.
So yes, and we didn't go heavy with a lot of the traditional, at least for this year, the traditional online marketing experts, because they all want to sell something. And like my one rule is like, you're not selling a single thing from the stage, myself included. Like I will not get up there and say, I'm barely even going to talk about what we do as an agency.
Sure.
Like this is its own thing, its own business, and it's not there to sell you, especially not there to sell you if you just spent $400 to $1,200 on a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
I went to tons of conferences and I spent all this money on a ticket, and then every other speaker is like, oh, here's a screaming deal on our product. I'm like, you literally just lost me. Like, I don't want to buy. I just spent all this money. I'm here to learn. And I get it. That's their model, and that's okay. And as long as you know that going into it, I feel like it's fair. But if you aren't disclosing that, like, hey, all the speakers are going to pitch you something, then like that. So with this, we went, the people that just want the exposure, you can essentially say, hey, you can pitch from the stage, it's 1,000 people, they work it out in their head, they know what their close rate is, and they have it all figured out, and they're like, okay, I'll do it. Or pay me, $50,000. And then a lot of the conferences are like, we'll just sell from the stage. I'm like, no, we'll pay it.
Yeah, we'll pay the money.
And we didn't run into that this year because we avoided a lot of people that did that, but that's a strict rule. We even had people that were like, we will split part of the whatever we sell from the stage with you on top of speaking for free. I'm like, nope. Either pass, like you're just not allowed. Like,
what do they sell?
A program, a course.
Okay.
It's normally a program or a course.
Yeah.
I think a book's fine. Like I don't have a problem. Like, hey, if you want my book, buy it. Whatever. Like it's $10.
Well, no, I usually make the conference buy the books.
Yeah.
then they put them in like the goodie bags or whatever for VIP people.
Right.
Yeah.
But with a lot of these of the people in the online marketing space, like they've gotten too hacky and too weird with it, where it's just like their whole goal is just to sell instead of teach. And I think that's fine if what you're selling online is that's your job, like you're selling stuff.
Sure.
But if you're getting paid to speak at a conference, and like then you probably shouldn't also, on top of getting paid to be there, be selling stuff. I think it's like one or the other. Both are fine, but just be transparent.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Obviously, I'm not of the heavy marketing world. I do marketing for myself in my own little, my little hole. But yeah, I guess I didn't. So marketers are typically selling these online courses. I guess I have seen some of those.
Yeah.
Some of those names selling like. Oddly enough, I think they're selling to other people on being a marketing agency. I've seen a lot of those.
There's a lot of that.
So there's a lot of that. There's some different like master courses.
Yeah.
I guess comparing it to like tech conferences, which is kind of what I keep bringing everything back to, but you really you give data, you give information, you give teaching, and then they're like, oh, that guy knows what he's doing.
Yep.
So that when you do hit a road bump, you're like, oh, you know what, that guy was on stage, he was talking about, AI, sorting security codes. Maybe I should talk to that guy because that's what I need, right? But yeah, I guess it makes sense that people would sell. I'm just not going to those kind of shows, so I'm glad that you managed to kind of pivot around that.
Yeah, and it's a different clientele too.
Yeah.
Like the people that, like all the business owners that were having there wouldn't be buying a lot of the programs anyway.
Yeah.
But if you go to something that's more of a, I wouldn't say get rich quick by any means, but like if you're people that are like, I need to learn this, I need to get this done like right now, like that's.
I'm going to take a 3-week course and then start a business.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Okay.
Like whatever it might be, I think that's like a different type of client. Where ours is pretty much business owners or people starting a business, and they're not making any, not buying anything. Somebody yelling on stage about how they need something. Like they're there to like learn, and then maybe they'll hire them on a giant contract like 2 years later because they knew that was the guy. He spoke at that conference. Like he knew his stuff. Anybody that's speaking on our stage that's going to like take that route, like that's what we're trying to do. Like I don't want everybody in that room trying to hire us. Like I want the right people that are in that room that have the patience to work with us for the next, long time, like years or however that long they're going to stick around. Like I want those people to leave and to email us and to not be like, I need this like tomorrow. Can I call you on Monday? Like,
Sure.
There's like, again,
you're building a culture, right? You're building a culture around how you do business, so people kind of know what to expect.
And I think that's the greatest thing with the live events of any sort is now as a business we're able to bring people into like a live event before they even have heard of us or before they ever work with us. They know like, wow, their team was like super nice. Like everything they did was like very polished, and like it gives them an opportunity to see us, but they're getting value and they're not like getting sold for 2 days. It's a great opportunity for us. So to do it, and it's a great opportunity for everybody else to learn a bunch of stuff and have a positive impact in kind of like touch point with our brand before they even consider working with us. So honestly, I'm working on trying to put together more content, and one of the last seminars that I'm giving that day is on how businesses should be running their own live events, and that like this for us is something that every business should be running. And like my example is the biggest jewelry store or the most like ambitious jewelry store in town should be the one that runs the wedding expo, and they shouldn't be title sponsoring it, they should be running it. Because the math works out to be like, you can do this, like start small, like whatever, but like you can totally make the math work way more, and then you own it, and now you're the authority right off the bat. Let all your competitors have booths. They're gonna the people are gonna go to the one that put the whole thing on. Like
for sure.
It's like,
and you can even collaborate with people because somebody might be like, I hate when people are very combative with people that are competitors because nobody's serving the market in the exact same way.
Right.
You can have overlap, and you're going to deal with somebody stealing your customer no matter what.
Right.
You're always going to deal with people trying to poach. You might as well still collaborate and make money along the way.
Yep, I think 15 to 20% of, I think it's high, at least 10% of the people that have already bought tickets are agency owners that I know are going to go there and try and pick up business. It's totally fine. Like, again, the goal of this conference is not for us to pick up 1,000 clients, it's to put on a great conference, and if work comes from that, great, but if no work comes from it, it's still a sustainable business for us that we're excited about. It's not a loss leader by any means. It's not like
the conference is paying for itself.
The conference is its own entity, and if other people want to go and network, they do it at every other conference. It's fine. Yeah.
So your goals for the conference are just to have a good conference, right? Is that true? I guess if we're sitting at the end of it's end of Thursday, right? Wednesday, and then Wednesday. At 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
What made it a good day for you?
On a surface level turnout, making sure that we had a good that everybody, we had the turnout that we wanted, and we were able to like get enough bodies in the room. And once you can't control that, so like once Tuesday passes and it's like this is how many people are there, well then it's making sure that everybody's leaving and saying I'm coming again next year. It's really the only things that matter. Like they're only going to say that they're going to come next year is if everything along the way was great. So if everybody leaves and says I'm coming back next year and telling people about it, I know everything else went great. I know that the little details that they might not have been happy with didn't matter as much, and we'll know what they are and we'll fix them. But it's success if everybody leaves and says, oh my God, that was worth the money and I'm coming again. With any live event, that's it. like it's more important when you're leaving a live event, literally the words coming out of your mouth being like, we have to go next year or I have to come back, is very, very different than pulling people at the exit and saying, did you have a good time?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you enjoy it? Like people go there, they're like, rate it, do it 1 out of 10, whatever. And it literally needs to be, are you going to return and are you going to tell people about it? And there's a metric that a lot of live events use, which literally is, how likely are you to tell people to go to this? Mm-hmm. And then they score it, and that to me is super interesting because that's what we're going after with year one. That means they learned. That means they got out of it whatever they wanted to get out of it. Whether they wanted to just have fun, great. If they just wanted to like drink a bunch of wine with Gary and take a selfie and pay $1,200, I would. Like, I know myself, I would. And like, if they wanted to just be super nerdy and take in everything and like think, like everybody's gonna get out of it what they want. So I'd say that's the end goal, and not like I hope everybody learns. I hope everybody gets out of it what they want to get out of it, and that'll lead to them leaving and saying, yeah, we're gonna come next year and we're gonna tell people about it. So.
Cool. So, and it's interesting. So you mentioned that you might have done a music festival instead, right? Is that that was one of the ideas you guys had?
Yeah, I think it's the hot thing.
Yeah.
I think I'm 100% at some point in my life gonna do one.
Yeah.
And I think like there's lots of things that make a whole lot of sense. Like we've done music festivals are a lot of people. That's intimidating to people.
Sure.
Like, how to get through it? I'm like, try and put 5,000 people through a haunted house in 4 hours in a pitch black maze. Like, I think I can handle this. Like, totally understand it's a different animal, but being in the live event space at least gives me a little more confidence that we can put on an event like that and have hopefully some level of success with it. So I think a lot of what we're doing right now is just trying things. Like, it's just trying things and exploring things. And young, like now's a great time to do it.
Yeah. So what other? I'm just out of curiosity. What other things are there? So you got a music festival. Like what other goals do you have? What other things do you want to take on at one point?
So I think the conference has a lot of room to grow. So I think it's got room to grow into a full trade show. It's got room to grow into 10x what it is, right? Like 1,000 people. So I think that has a lot of room to evolve. And I think a lot of what we're doing this year is trying to understand like what type of people are attending and really understand what they're after and seeing the potential for that conference. So I think that has the potential to grow into something that's a lot bigger maybe than just a marketing conference, and way bigger than 2 days, and definitely bigger than one stage. Like, I think we're in Columbus, we have one of the biggest convention centers in the country. Like, this is like everything's lining up to be like, this could be a home run.
Yeah.
We've got a long way to go and years of building, but like we know that.
Yeah.
And, like we're going to put in the time and put in the hours to do it. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Outside of that, I think anything with live music is super fun for me. Like I've been playing classical piano and learning music and been in that space forever. So
are you a big electronic guy now? Or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm huge in all of that stuff, and I think what I see, my thing right now is like what I see with music festivals is like they've maxed out potentially, who knows, definitely not maxed out, but they've taken the experience side to the max.
Sure.
It's like you look at EDC and you're like, okay, like that singular stage costs $15 million to build.
Yep.
And you're like, and then you look at a business conference or a business event, you're like, okay, their biggest stage has 25, 50 grand into it.
Yeah, maybe in lighting,
Right.
And I think with music festivals too, like especially when you get into like pyrotechnics and things like that, I mean, you're literally burning money away by the seconds. Whereas the business conference, once you paid the expenses and you have all it's pretty much done. Right. You're not going to incur any other costs.
But there's definitely a different angle. Like your goal with music is providing a different type of emotion than you are at a business conference.
Not a business conference.
Right. Like a sales conference where they're just amping you up for 3 days.
Sure.
Like, great. Like they're all fun. I love going to all of them. But I think there's a lot of room to grow as we look at the live event space for like a business B2B event or a conference or a trade show, in creating some sort of I won't even use the word similar, but similar, I guess, in scale and production value as these music festivals have done, where they've just created these giant things that transform you into another world, and you're like, where in the heck am I?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to a business conference and you're just like, I want to get out of here. Like this is, my boss is making to be here.
Well, to echo a point you made before, I go to conferences all the time and I phase in and out. You know, I'll show up to a couple keynotes, I'll back out. You know, I'll do my speaking thing, and I'll back out. I very rarely stay at the conference for the full 10 hours.
Yeah, and I think that it's definitely not just making a bigger stage. It's definitely not. It's definitely not a simple parallel of let's add pyro to our stage, but it's a parallel of they transported you to another world. They created this experience where you don't want to leave.
Yeah, you're immersed in it. Yeah,
and that's how you. But that's how you learn, right? Like if you take that and then you put it into a conference setting, then you're actually going to want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the teacher in school, like tries to think about how do I get these kids to like pay attention. And I think if you're going to get somebody to absorb content, how about start with like, let's start by not making them want to stand up and leave because the person's been talking for an hour straight and the room's dark and cold, and like it's just like funny simple things you think through. You're like, if you're really going to teach somebody something, like immerse them in an environment and like start to figure out. And that's what we're doing this first year. We're not saying, like, I'm definitely not saying that I know what the answer is, or like that the stage should be bigger, or this or that, and these specific things should be different, but there's definitely room to grow in that space. Whereas like with a music festival, I don't know how much bigger you could possibly go with some of these that are drawing like 100 to 400,000 people.
Yeah.
Like, where the heck are you going to go?
You just make the experience more niche, right?
Right.
You don't try to be the biggest, you try to just be a different experience, I imagine.
Yeah, it's got to be niche, or you know, maybe you say, cool, that's about as big as you can throw a live event without somebody dying. And like,
oh, even in those situations.
Yeah, people have died at all of them.
Yeah,
because they're just so big, and you're like, where's
the numbers game at that point? I mean,
yeah,
even without all the other fun things at music festivals, I mean, people could just die. Like,
yeah,
it just happens.
Heat stroke and all that sort of thing. So I think with the business side, I'm super interested to see. I think we've gone above and beyond on the production end this year, like way bigger than I've ever seen a first year event like this do. Like I really think, I don't know how much more we could have done. And so we've brought the biggest names in our space. We've rented like the second biggest ballroom in the, I don't know, I'd probably just say Columbus. And the next biggest one, the biggest one, is right next door for next year, ready for us. And then we've got like the production side of the lighting and the stage and all that, and everything is way overkill what we probably needed to do. But I think that's, you want to keep somebody's attention for 2 days and say this is why you paid $400 or $500. It's because it's going to be exciting from the second that you walk in to the second you leave, and that's going to encourage somebody to focus and learn. That's going to lead to somebody sitting there and learning and absorbing the content versus getting up and then leaving and saying, yeah, I don't know, like I think I learned a couple things, because they were so bored you couldn't even keep their attention to absorb the content. So I don't know where it's going to go, but I think as far as like where we want to go, there's just so much room to grow right with the B2B space.
That's probably sounds like that's where you're set and growing now. So I mean, like I said, I'm impressed with the things I've seen, you know, the way that you presented it. Obviously, I drove all the way here just for you, man. You know, and they're building out a sign with foam out there. I mean, you can tell when it's a labor of love, and I think that's what will probably attract people to it.
Yeah.
Are you on the second floor of the Hyatt? So you go into the Hyatt.
Third.
Yeah, you go up, and it's where they have the main ballroom here, and then they have some breakout rooms off to the side.
Kind of, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm familiar. It's a good spot. It's I think you got something good going. So yeah, I'm excited. As far as like general philosophies, you want to leave us with anything that's been, or at least through this process that you've echoed in your head.
There's really two things that have been on my mind. One is just asking for everything, like just that. I've always, been told that in our whole lives, or like parents or teachers or whatever, just ask, like just try it. And I'm like, I've always thought I've been doing that, but to do that at a level of just call Gary's office and say like, can I buy a bunch of wine and come speak at my event? Yeah. Like to know that like those things happen, and then just an Instagram message, like the Harmon brothers, and they're like, yep, within 24 hours. Message Dane and John, he was booked in 12 hours. Like the whole process, doing some of those things, everybody's question is how did you get it? And literally it's that simple of like, you have to write the check, but like, to get it done, there's not a whole lot of tricks to this stuff.
There's not as many barriers between you and them, I guess, is what you're saying.
They want all the same things that you're giving, that you're offering. You got some money, great, we'll come talk. You know, I mean, it's pretty
straightforward.
It's extremely straightforward. You know, so I think that's like the biggest thing is just asking, and then all the things that weren't monetary but were just fun things. I don't even know what a good example is, but just even at the hall, it was like just. So, you know, they're like, hey, can you come down in a couple weeks for a visit? I'm like, you free in 5 minutes? I'm right around the corner. Can we visit it? She's like, yep. And then we booked the hall an hour later. So it was just like literally just asking and pushing stuff forward has been what made all this happen versus waiting for the stars to align and all these things to come together. So that's one. And then I think the other is what's been coming from running an event. I've done the same thing, done a marketing agency. All we're doing different now is teaching what we do at our marketing agency at a live event, and the amount of doors that are opening. From like, you would not have interviewed me probably just because I ran a marketing agency. So running a live event has been going to sit in Gary's office, going to meet David Meltzer, be on the Entrepreneurs podcast. Every podcast person in Columbus is like wanting to talk to me, and I'm like, this is great, but I'm also like, why?
Right.
And I think there's something about like hosting a live event to complement your existing business that just can't be matched. Like, it's so valuable.
I mean, think about you're doing something, I guess, and so few people are doing things. Like in the grand scheme of things, and this isn't putting anyone down, but like you like, for example, with the podcast, I was like, oh well, somebody's already done it. Somebody's doing a tech podcast, right? Well, nobody's really doing emerging technology. Like no one's doing the same thing, and when I did it, I was surprised that people actually started listening right away. Like it didn't, you know, it's growing, but it didn't take long to get initial like little base of people that I had never met before, right? And I think people are attracted to people that do things, just in general, like they put themselves out there, you take risks, you know. And yeah, I think like, you know, from my experience, I mean, something about me on Facebook really made that algorithm attached your ad to me for days, and so, you know, that beat in my head a little bit. I'm like, all right, what is this, right? It's digital marketing. Is this another you know, guy trying to sell me on this? You know, get this, you know, do my course, and you'll run your own digital marketing agency. Hard to discern from that when you're not a strict marketing guy. So then eventually I click down and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Oh, it's in Columbus. Okay, that's interesting. You know, then I go back, and then I think I saw something on LinkedIn that somebody was talking about it. I'm like, what's this? And then I clicked on it at haunted houses, and I'm like, all right, what is this? I just want to know, right? And but that's the thing. Like you, I think that's the other thing that attracts people to you. You've done haunted houses. You have your own business. You're running an event. Like, you're ambitious. You're young. You're doing stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's what is attributed to your success right now.
Yeah, I think that's super kind and everything. Yes, thank you. But I think also like it's thinking of the while everybody's looking at like a ClickFunnel or a hacky thing that would be like, how do I make money online? I'm like, I know how to do that, but I will tell you right now, I did that in college. I'm miserable. Like, it's so boring. Not only is it boring, but it's like, it's not sustainable. You're like, how do I make some cash right now? That's not a smart way to be looking at business, and that's not going to work. And
do you think the average person knows that though?
What do you mean?
Do you think that they'd be miserable doing the ClickFunnel, the kind of the grunt work market?
Sure, when they don't make money from it.
Well, but they'd have to find that out on their own.
It doesn't take long.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's a very quick thing, but then they get sold the hope of, you're so close, you can do it, you're almost there. It's like, what are you building? You know, like, what are you making that's going to be around in the next 10 years? And for me, it's funny because like what we do is online advertising, but when a client comes to me with the lead, like, I've had somebody sit here and be like, I want you to build a ClickFunnel. I'm like, okay, we're a client service business. We will do that. I'm 0% interested anymore in like hearing about what you have to do, because I know your goal is like, I want to make money and I want to do nothing. I'm not going to help you do that. I want somebody that's like, I want to build something. I know it's going to be super, super, super hard. And like, I want to build this giant event or this giant business, and we're going to be in it for the next 10 years. And I'm passionate about it. I'm like, please, please, please hire us. Like, that's people I'm like begging. Like, I want to work with you if you're just as excited about growing your business as I am. If you walk in here and like, what's the easiest way to do this? I'm like, That's just not.
Yeah.
I think it's a wrong mentality, and I think when everybody right now, the barrier to entry for doing all the digital stuff is so like everybody's just doing the same thing, and a live event goes the opposite way of that. And I think some people overcomplicate what a live. Our live event's a little bit bigger, but it's still small in comparison to what exists. But it's big for like what Columbus has, but it's small like compared to a traffic and conversion summit or like Dreamforce or pretty much any big event.
Anything in Vegas.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
They're all kicking our butts because ours doesn't even happen. But like those are huge. But doing a 50-person workshop every month or once a year or something that's 50 people or 100 people will also transform your business in a different way. Like it's just you got to get out of there and bring people together and do something in the real world. And I think that's when I think about my experience. I didn't build like the haunted house was a very, very big business, but it also there's a lot of kids that were my age at that time that made more money than I did doing some hacky thing with Bitcoin or whatever online. And I just don't like that they didn't do anything. Like you took a big gamble, ton of respect that you had the guts to do that.
It's personally attacking me, but
what?
It is a joke.
No, but
yeah,
I know you didn't learn skills that I did, and I know that person learned skills that I don't have.
And once the market of Bitcoin regulates, you won't be able to replicate that success. Right.
Right, but I don't know enough about it. I don't care what it is. Like that's not really the point. The point is like anything that's a true just digital company, it's difficult to learn a lot of the traditional business skills of like people are like, how did you get an office? I'm like, you pay rent. Yeah. Like you just go and you pay rent and that's the same thing with everything.
How do you get an apartment?
It's so shocking to me when the people that have been building these online businesses take one step forward into like a legitimate like operation and they have no idea what to do because they've just been thinking about like the simple math end of like how do I get another like client and I'm this and I'm making all this money. I'm like, cool, you have no expenses. What happens if you get sick? You don't have a single employee to like take over. You know, it's very short term thinking, and I think there can be a lot of people that are running businesses right now that are younger and that are thinking about what to do should be thinking about how to build something that is just what's going to be around forever is a silly thing to think about, but at least what's going to be around if you get sick, what's going to be around if you need to go on vacation or you have a kid or like anything in the world that can happen. And the freelance businesses are very, very tough. They're also very tough to sell if they're sellable at all. And an agency is not a super sexy thing to sell either. Like,
well, I imagine most agencies are kind of attached to the figurehead, right?
Yeah.
And once you lose that.
Yes and no. Okay. So a lot of the modern ones now are like smaller ones. Yes, everybody thinks they're hiring like me that wants to hire us, and then when they don't, like, essentially when they aren't working with me directly, they're like, what's happening? I'm like, I can't work with every single client. Yeah. So that I think that's becoming a little more like if Gary ever went to sell VaynerMedia, it would get a fraction of what he would want for it, and he knows that, which is why he's not building it to sell, he's building it as a tool. And that's what we're doing is we're building this as a tool. So now I've got the in-house marketing team to run the most amazing marketing platform for any music festival or a conference or whatever. That's why we're building the team out where we are now. We're doing the client services because there's definitely a market for it and that it's financially viable and it makes a lot of sense. But it's also like this is the hardest thing to duplicate, like the marketing arm. It's so hard. You can hire an accountant, you can hire a lawyer, you can hire all those things. Super, super hard to hire a marketing team of this size to be dedicated towards you, to be as agile as we are. Like, it's very, very hard. So building that team out, I think, is one of the most valuable assets that a business can have. So
yeah, I mean, your team is your secret sauce, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to. I mean, to your point, I guess it's hard in digital marketing to do something that's different in terms of what the techniques are. I guess what the difference is the people, and then obviously you're taking things a step further with the event. So, yeah. So I think that we are close to our perceived time. So any closing things you want to kind of mention? kind of run us through the event one more time in terms of dates and where to sign up for that.
Yeah. So July 16th and 17th, early registration the 15th. That's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday is the main conference, and it's in Columbus, Ohio, the Hyatt Regency, and SkySproutSummit.com is where you can buy tickets. We have tickets starting at $400 all the way up to $1,200 for the wine tasting, meet and greet, and some other VIP options for that as well. And we've got a lot of different ticketing options, so check out the website and people can pick whatever works for them. But yeah, that's that. And if anybody's interested in talking to us about services, it's just skysprout.com. And if you just want to learn some online marketing stuff and follow me, it's at Nick J. Francis on Instagram.
Perfect. And I'll have all those links on the show notes. So really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Awesome.